Let's review the completing the square steps that we learned last lesson in 5.2. I have already rewritten the 5 steps down from 5.2 so that you can reference them. And we're going to go through and do them, but with this equation here. So step 1, I gather my like terms. So I'm going to gather my x's together. I just have an 8x. Gather my y's together, y squared plus 4y. And remember, you want to bring everything to one side, so I'm going to bring this 4 over to the other side, get it to equal 0, so then I have a negative 4 over here, which doesn't have any x's or y's. So step 1, gather my like terms, check. Step 2, get x squared and y squared alone. Well, here I don't have an x squared, so I'm good there. Y squared doesn't have a number in front, so I can skip step 2, we're good there. Step 3, pull the squared out and cut the last number in half. Notice that 8x doesn't have a squared on it, so there's no squared to pull out. So I'm just going to leave that 8x alone. However, the y does have a squared. So I'm going to pull that squared out and then cut my last number in half. This is a plus 4. I'm going to now do a plus 2. And my negative 4 I haven't changed. Next, I'm going to multiply everything out. There's not really anything here to multiply, it's just 8x. However, there is stuff right here, so let's multiply these two out. Y squared plus 2y plus 2y, and 2 times 2 is 4. And step 5, get rid of the extra, so let's match y squared plus 4y, y squared plus 4y. There's my check step, which means I'm on the right track. And my extra is that plus 4. So if I want to get rid of that extra, I'm going to minus 4 to get rid of it. So that right there is my completing the square. So I'm going to rewrite it down here. I have 8x plus y plus 2 squared. And then I have minus 4, which is a minus 8, equals 0. Now remember, at this point, you have completed the square. Check. So the last steps are getting it to look like the equation we're using for this shape. So remember, we want it to get it to look like this. That's where I'm heading. I want it to look like my parabola equation. So it looks like the first thing I'm going to do is I want to get the squared by itself on the left. So I'm going to come back here, get rid of the 8x and the 8, so that I can get the squared by itself. So now I have that. Now the last thing I need to do to get it to look like this equation is I need to get the y by itself in its own set of parentheses. So I'm going to come down here, or in this case the x. I'm going to take this negative 8 out so that I can get this x alone. Now, if I take a negative 8 out of that, remember that means dividing by negative 8. So 8 divided by negative 8 is a negative 1. You can always double check your work by distributing that negative 8 back in to make sure it matches what you had. And now that looks a lot more like a parabola equation. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to rewrite that equation up here. And we're now going to graph it. So using this equation that is now in a much better form than it was before, I'm going to find my 5 things. And then graph this parabola. Now you should be able to do this part. So I'm going to have you pause the video, try to find all these things on your own, graph this parabola on your own, and then come back to check your work. Let's check your work. Now, first off, I found the vertex. Remember the vertex is h, k, and remember that h always goes with the x value, k always goes with the y value. I need the x first, then the y, and I flip the signs. So positive 1, negative 2, There's my vertex. I found my latus rectum is 8. Remember, I can drop the negative because it's a distance. And then I set that equal to 4p to get that p is 2. Now, before I could graph anything, I need to figure out what direction this parabola goes. So I found out the y is squared and the 4p is negative. That means this parabola should open to the left. So then I did p left 2 to get the focus. So then the focus is inside the parabola. And I did p right 2 to get the directrix. So the directrix is outside the parabola. And then from there, I did my latus rectum is 8 wide, which would be 4 on each side, and graphed it out. And finally, took what my focus and directrix is and wrote them down. So that is all we're going to do for completing the square today, and then using our completed square to graph. In the last videos, we're going to look at some story problems with parabolas.